Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Cats and Dogs here on Press TV with me, Lembert Opik. And this week we take a look at the curious world of supersized America. As we all know, the United States has a reputation for supersizing everything. There's the supersized burger, there's the Superbowl, and they don't even have normal size apples. They've got the Big Apple. And then there are those supersized historic moments that we all know about. In World War II, when everyone else was dropping normal bombs, America just had to go and drop a couple of supersized bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Then they supersized their involvement in Vietnam. And there were those supersized torture tactics in Guantanamo Bay. Yes, the world is heavily indebted to the United States for being super high achievers. Now, in the 21st century, the United States has shifted its superness to women. A woman finally, and for the first time ever, has the post of vice president in that country. And that's not all. She's also a woman of colour in the White House as the US vice president. It's so astonishing that President Joe Biden actually forgot she was black. And for all we know, maybe he forgot she is a woman too. Let's take a look at history. Pakistan is a country known to have some tension with India, and it also happens to have a load of atom bombs. But unlike the United States of America, the country has never used its A-bombs yet. And it's also quite far ahead in terms of women in power. In fact, Pakistan had a female head of state, Benazir Bhutto, as far back as 1988. That's a third of a century ago, when even Joe Biden was under 200 years old. And remember, President Bhutto was elected in a Muslim-majority country. And then there's Finland, with a female Prime Minister called Sanna Marin. Another country that beat the Americans to it was Mauritania. Over there, a lady by the name of Amina Gurib Fakim served as president from 2015 to 2018. Yes, the United States, the self-proclaimed champion of women's rights, is finally following in the footsteps of Pakistan, Finland and Mauritania. Oh, and the United Kingdom. Remember Margaret Thatcher? According to some historians, she was a woman too. If I were Uncle Sam, I'd probably boast less about the fact the Vice President is a woman and more about the fact that, despite being black, Kamala Harris hasn't been shot by the police yet. Returning to the gender thing, it has to be said that the number of American women in high-level positions, especially in the White House, is quite obviously still lower than the number of men. Perhaps that's on purpose, like a strategy to protect females in some way. Remember that famous love story between a young White House intern, Monica Lewinsky, and the then US President Bill Clinton, who did everything he could to give her an intimate understanding of the White House. That was just the tip of the iceberg. What isn't quite so impressive is wage rates for women versus men in the United States. While Monica Lewinsky may have been paid in other ways, many women aren't very happy about being paid 77 cents for every dollar a man gets for the same job. Does anybody care? This woman does.
What do Serena Williams, Danica Patrick, Lindsey Vonn, Ronda Rousey, and Maria Sharapova all have in common? They're all bad women, not on the list of the 100 highest paid athletes in the world. In fact, not a single woman is on that list. Not one. Roger Federer, $77 million to Serena Williams, $18. Lewis Hamilton, $51 million. Danica Patrick, $10.3. Let me just end with this. You know, talking about what we make still seems so taboo. I did something recently I had never done before.
No wonder feminism has a big following in the New World. Having said that, Washington and most of the rest of the country still seem to have a thirst for meninism. But what would it be like if the roles were reversed? What if men were encouraged to stay at home and take care of their children while women go to work and bring home the money? How competent would men be when changing children's diapers or cooking a turkey for Thanksgiving? Now that would be a challenge.
But I mean, it takes like 5 hours, right?
Not necessarily.
All these stressful experiences can turn a man into a monster. I'm told a new survey even shows that 16% of men in America think wife beating is justifiable. Presumably the rest of the country thinks it's better to take all that aggression out in other ways, like watching American football or invading Iraq again. By the way, it's worth noting that 5 whole decades have passed since the approval of the Equal Rights Amendment in the United States. Yet many experts believe that women will not have equal rights till around 2059. In other words, the amendment was approved when President Obama was a 10-year-old boy, but will not be put into effect until he turns 100. Even Joe Biden will be into his 10th term as president by then. Incidentally, last year, a district judge in California dismissed the US women's national soccer team's claim, which was against US soccer and about unequal pay. Now, the judge argued that male players have more speed and power, so they get paid more. Really? I mean, on that basis, in America, you should get paid less if you're a little person. Well, I suppose that also means Donald Trump should have been paid a fortune. But come on, people, it's not about how much speed and power you've got, it's whether you use all that you've got. That's what matters.
La, 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 la. La, la, la.
Back to that court case. The women got $6 million when they won the World Cup in 2019. But that was 1/5 of what their male counterparts get as regular wages. And the lawsuit they filed against US soccer cost them $66 million. Now that's 192 times the cost of the world's most expensive female football player, Pernilla Harder. But less than half the cost, incidentally, to buy the most expensive male footballer. That's Marcus Rashford. He's worth £150 million. I can't play football, but at those prices, I'm certainly willing to learn. That said, things are not all bad if you're a woman. In a shock move in the history of the United States, President Donald Trump announced in 2020 that he would pardon Susan B. Anthony, a mere 148 years after her conviction as a women's rights activist. The only person old enough to have actually met her is the current US president. I'm also surprised to discover the US is among the very few developed countries in the whole world with no paid maternity leave. So if you are a woman living in the United States and you happen to be pregnant, when the time comes to give birth, you have just 2 options. Either give birth at work or learn to operate Zoom when you're in labour. Against such a backdrop, the Hollywood actor Angelina Jolie has publicly entered a political debate by announcing she thinks the US Taliban peace deal should protect women's rights in Afghanistan. Nice sentiment, Angelina. The only thing that worries me is that if the US is able to impose the American way on the Afghans, that means that women there will get paid 77% of what the men are being paid for the same job. They'll also have to give birth at work, and they'll get a presidential pardon 148 years after being found guilty of a crime they did not commit. If you look at it that way, then maybe the Afghan system isn't so bad after all. The lesson from all this is that, as so often happens, the rule is do as I say, not as I do. So it's probably best to celebrate progress when and where it happens. Avoid hypocrisy and, wherever possible, don't drop atom bombs on Japan. That's it for this week. Join me again next time to see if Joe Biden remembers the gender of his vice president. If Capitol Hill has started replacing all the men with women because they're cheaper, and if any female doing a job involving hard labour is doing it while in labour. That's all with me, Lemon Opic on Press TV, and Cats and Dogs.